shown a man who prepares a considerable amount of money, which is about $30,000. Then he went to a gambling place owned by Teddy. The man was named Michael, or commonly called Mickey. He is a law school student in New York City who depends his life on gambling proceeds because half of his tuition he meets from gambling proceeds. So he regarded gambling as a job. He is a man who is a genius. He knew the card held by his opponent just by looking at the facial expression of his opponent. For that, he has a rule in gambling that is that he will place a bet if he has a good card, and he will not bet if he gets a bad card. In addition, he also learned various experiences, types of bets, to the characters of the players. On that night, as usual, Mickey used his tricks to play, but it seemed that luck was not with him. On this game, he had to lose, and all money was spent. Furthermore, one of his friends named Joey Knish, who is also a pro player in the poker game, feels sorry for him. Then Joey Knish offers capital to return to gambling on Mickey, but he rejects the offer. He would rather stop being a gambler. Joey even offers 50-50 advantages if he wins, and he also doesn't charge if Mickey loses. But Mickey's determination was unanimous, and he would still quit as a gambler. 9 months later, Mickey works as a package delivery man. One day, he delivered a package to his college, which was addressed to one of his lecturers. Unexpectedly, the judges, prosecutors, and professors on the college were playing poker. As a former poker pro player, he felt intrigued by the game. Then he guided his lecturer to place a big bet after he saw the cards his lecturer had. As well as with the skills yet, he also knew the cards held by his opponent. His actions had shocked the members in the game. He casually replied that he knew the cards that all the members had. Then, it surprised the members because for them it was impossible. After finishing his work, then he went to his apartment, and there he lives with his girlfriend named Joe. He told Joe that he was going to see a judge because he was offered a post by a judge he met while he was assisting his lecturer in playing poker. Knowing that, Joe was curious about his plan. Joe is also worried if he returns to gambling. However, he assured Joe that he was not playing a role, and he was merely a consultant to his lecturers. Next, before Joe left, he borrowed Joe's Jeep to pick up Worm, who is going to get out of prison tomorrow. Worm is a best friend who is already considered a brother by Mickey. He is the son of a law enforcement officer, but with a less than good income. Their friendship began when they studied together, then continued the illegal business so that he was caught. But he didn't say that Mickey was his co-worker. It was done to protect Mickey from continuing his studies while the Worm was willing to be sacrificed. After that, they confide in each other about their experiences, like a Worm telling him about his life in prison, while Mickey tells the Worm that he has stopped playing poker. This made the Worm startled. Their journey stalled in front of the poker venue. Worm then persuades Mickey to return to play, but the answer remains the same. He still didn't want to. He's also reminiscent of a Worm if he's just out of jail, so just play it later. However, Worm said if he had a debt of $15,000 that he had to pay, then he would have to play. Eventually, Mickey left Worm in that place, but on the way he couldn't bear to leave Worm alone. Therefore, he chose to turn around and catch up with Worm. When he got there, he was greeted by Barbara, Worm friend. Barbara did not hesitate to give him capital. After Worm said that he was a pro player, Barbara says that Mickey must have won, and Barbara asks for a fee of $25 the winnings he earns. Mickey and Worm finally played together. At their various tricks and skills, they can easily defeat other members and get a lot of benefits. But even so, they are still aware that they have to play beautifully so as not to be discovered. They also occasionally give other members a chance to win, so as not to be suspicious. After the game was over, they then divided the results of the game, including the fee given to Barbara. The victory made Worm feel addicted. In the morning, he took Mickey to another poker playground. Mickey advised Worm to be more careful because there are likely to be pro people who are in the game and can disassemble the tricks he do. Mickey went to his apartment and he was asked by Joe about last night's game. At first, he tried to deny joining the play and he argued that he was only helping Worm. But Joe's instincts were so strong, she still didn't believe Mickey's words. Then when Mickey was in the shower, he checked Mickey's pocket and found enough money that it further strengthened her conjecture if Mickey came into play. When Mickey and Joe were talking on campus, suddenly Joey Knish conveyed that Worm had cheated in a poker game. Hearing that, Mickey was worried about Worm. Then he rushed to catch up with Worm. "Yeah, I'm gonna go get him." After arriving, he directly pulled Worm out. Then he advised Worm to no longer cheat because it could blacklist Worm at all game venues in New York. In addition, he also reminded Worm that he could deal with the Mafia. But Worm stays stubborn. After that, Worm returned to the gambling place and returned to play. He was also again able to win the game and got a big advantage. Meanwhile, Mickey and Joe get into an argument over Mickey being caught back playing. Joe feels disappointed in Mickey because she feels lied to, but Mickey says that he is forced to, and he also gets a big advantage from the game. But Joe didn't want to know about that. Furthermore, when Worm was enjoying up his victory. In a bar, suddenly he was approached by Grandma, then immediately entangled him into the bathroom. Grandma is an old friend of Worm. Grandma intends to collect a debt on Worm, which amounts to $15,000. Worm was shocked because he felt that he didn't have such a big money, but it turns out that the money in question is Teddy's money. Unwilling to be battered, Worm finally agreed to pay off the debt. Not only that, he also took the money that was on Worm. On the other hand, Mickey meets his lecturer. The lecturer was still curious about his ability to know the cards of all his opponents in the game of poker. Mickey said that he knew only by paying attention to the expressions and mannerisms of the members when he was holding the cards. In addition, he also has rules in playing cards, so he will only bet if he has a good card, and he will not bet if the card is bad. So in playing, Herm must be able to control the emotions. Mickey's explanation certainly still makes the lecturer confused because it is considered still unreasonable, and he amazed by Mickey's genius. What choice? Worm meets Mickey. He was shocked to find Worm had injuries. Worm said that he fell after Mickey invited him into his apartment. But how surprised was Mickey when found his apartment had been vacant? It turned out that Joe had left without saying goodbye as well as carrying his things. He felt very sad. Seeing that, Worm tried to comfort him by saying that women are just destroyers. Not only that, Worm also says a happy life is not a woman, but a game of poker by placing big bets and winning that game. Unexpectedly, Mickey instantly turned 180 degrees. He then went to Vegas to play poker by placing large bet. When he got there, he and Worm met some other pro players like Joey Kanishke. On that night, they managed to make a fairly decent profit. Afterwards, Worm reveals that he is in debt to Grandma, and the debt is piling up because it is not paid. He also said his money had also been spent taken away by Grandma. Hearing that, as a good friend and driven by a sense of gratitude, Mickey will help Worm to pay off all his debts. He then accompanied Worm to the Grandma's house to ask for waivers, but because Worm couldn't control his emotions, Grandma only gave 5 days to pay off the debt. Since then, Mickey has been actively playing poker at various tables to collect money, however, on the condition that Worm should not come into play, because it is worried that it will add the problem. Day after day, Mickey managed to raise money, but on the 4th day, he lost half of his money. After suffering an actual defeat, he almost won, but he failed after getting an opponent who has a lot of money and is bluffed with high stakes. Now the money is only $7,500, and there is still less than $7,500 left. Subsequently, Worm suggested that he play at his friend's gambling place. At first, Mickey refused to play at the place because there were a lot of cops playing, but Worm assured him that those cops were used to gambling, and he already knew those cops when he was incarcerated. Eventually, Mickey plucked up the courage to come in and play at the place. At first, the game won according to plan, and Mickey managed to get a lot of wins in that place. But that instantly changed as Worm came into the game at the same table. They tried to use the tricks they had been doing, but this time they were discovered. The cops were suspicious and managed to prove the cheating committed by Worm when he divided the cards. Therefore, they were both chastised and all the money they had taken away. Knowing they are bankrupt and unlikely to be able to pay the debt, then Worm proposes to flee out of town, but Mickey doesn't want to. He preferred to go back to meet Grandma to tell everything in hopes of being given a chance again. The next day, he returned to Grandma's house by himself with a battered face. He went to Grandma to tell him everything. Grandma asks where Worm is. Mickey says that Worm is gone, and he again asks Grandma for waivers. Grandma says you shouldn't have to guarantee your friend's debt. Grandma then gave him another day a chance. After that, Mickey meets Joey Kanish for help, but $15,000 is not a small money, and he only has $2,000. Joey Kanish says that he can only help with that money, but he can help with other things besides money. A confused Mickey plucked up the courage to meet his lecturer. He told him everything that happened. Hearing Mickey's story, his lecturer felt sorry, but he could only lend him Mickey $10,000. Now the money was still less than $5,000. For that, he was desperate to gamble the $10,000 money at Teddy's place. Teddy had asked about the unpaid debt, but Mickey casually said that the payment due was tomorrow, and tonight he would gamble it first. Hearing that, Teddy agreed. Then the duel between the two pro players begins. They start by bluffing each other to put up bets, but Mickey the genius isn't provoked by it. I realize, then switched with Mickey, who dropped Teddy's mentality, and he managed to win by $5,000, so it's fitting to pay the debt. Proud and good. Don't accept it. Teddy then make fun of it. Mickey, who started to be provoked, finally returned to sit down to continue the game. As usual, Mickey used his ability to see the opponent's expression so that he was not provoked. Teddy disappointed, but the game resumed. In this game, Teddy was so sure of the cards he had that he put up all his money. However, it turned out that Mickey cards were better, so he again won the game. Teddy was certainly very angry, but he was fair, so he still paid for his defeat. Mickey was relieved that he was able to pay the debt. Next morning, Mickey met Joe in front of the campus. He left $10,000 to give to his lecturer. Next, he returned to Vegas to gamble the rest of the money.